Welcome back, everybody. This is Artie Decker. This is PSN. We're in week 10. You heard me right. Week 10, the final week of the regular season of this football uh, frenzy. Uh, it just doesn't seem possible. A few weeks ago we were making the playoff, I guess, projections. Now here we are. The picture is pretty much filled itself in. Um, there's still a few little loose ends to be tied up, and we're going to get into that as the show goes on, and try to explain the different scenarios for you. But for some people, this week will be the final week. It'll be get out the basketball time for a lot of schools. We'll have a few that around here that will still be in the chase, but let's just jump right in. Let's look at last week. That Gadsden City just putting a good little beating on Grissom. That's very impressive for them. Jamontez Woods had 306 yards rushing. Big night for him, and that is 3 wins in a row for the Titans. Um, that Jackson Olin and Homewood game, that was a region title game. Jackson Olin, I guess, a semi upset. Most people might have picked Homewood in that one. Um, Central Clay wraps up number 2 in their region. North Sand just in a mud daubing looking game. Uh, Rain pouring really put a kibosh on their passing game, but they were able to get it out and get an ugly win over Section. Not a whole lot of shock there in 1A. Central Phoenix City, Auburn, region title on the line. The Red Devils come out with a win. We picked that. I didn't really expect the 17-point margin, but I did expect the win in that one. Florence knocking off Sparkman. That's a big, big win for Florence because that pretty much wraps up that fourth spot for them. And Coach White and company will miss the playoffs this year. It does look like. Thompson, what more can you say? It was 28-0 Huskies all over them. And then Talia Tongleviola, he just goes bananas. And they outscore them big time the rest of the way and win it 63-49 in a wild one. And it pretty much wraps it up as number 2 for them. And Hewitt, unfortunately for them, they drop all the way to 4. So, you know, bad times for them in this whole scenario. Bob Jones, another big win over Huntsville, pretty much wraps up the playoff spot for them as well. This was the region title game. We actually picked Austin, but James Clemens come in on a roll and they stay on a roll, especially offensively. Had scored 49, I believe, the previous 2 weeks, and this week, or excuse me, this past week, scored 36. So they just keep on rolling, and a surprising region championship for them. Looking on Hoover, as we talked about, taking care of Mountain Brew, it wraps up another number 1 seed for them. Um, Good win for Vestavia. Athens takes care of business in that one. Chelsea, Coach Goodwin. A lot of people, Plainview folks, you remember him. That was 2 wins in a row for Chelsea, and they finally are building a little bit of momentum here towards the latter part of the year, beating a struggling Clara 35-3. Fort Payne just takes care of business against a struggling Coleman team, 37-22. Um, this was a big game for St. Paul's, wraps up a playoff spot for them, 28-24. Believe they will go in as a 4, possibly a 3. And Daphne, unfortunately, that will shut the door on them and their hopes. Hartsville just taking care of business in a good one there. Um, Charlottesville rolling. McAdoo bounces back. Oxford just rolls. Saraland taking care of Blunt. That would have been a big upset for Blunt, but just could not quite pull it off. Muscle Shoals with Tumpkus. Some people call this an upset. I don't really call this an upset. These two teams are very evenly matched. It was 10 versus 6, and Muscle Shoals able to get the better of them. not really surprised there. Wetumpka has shown a lot of inconsistency in the latter part of the season. Alexandria smokes Douglas. Douglas does finally score though. That is 4 weeks for 6 points for Douglas. I mean, that's pretty much says it all. Madison Academy rolls Etowah. We thought this game would be a little tighter. Etowah somewhere or another finds some offense. Uh, the Brady Trout kid, man, he just really played well for them, passing the ball and they go off and just dominate the Pirates, 49-7, wrapping up that region. Southside takes care of business, wraps up number 2, dropping Boaz to number 3. East Limestone just smoking Gunnersville. No shock there. Former Jordan, another impressive win. Scottsboro had to have this game, and it was actually 3-3 at halftime, to my understanding. But Brewer comes out in the second half, takes control, and dashes Coach Jacobs and Scottsboro's playoff hopes as Gunnersville will go in at that 4th spot. Sylacauga finally, wraps up that 4th spot for them after struggling pretty much, I would say, ever since about the 3rd game of this season. But they do manage to get by Munford and wrap up that 4th spot. Anniston, nice win there, wraps up number 3 for them. Headland knocks off Catholic Montgomery 34-29. I believe that puts Headland at number 2 in that region. Um, Cherokee County, just a nice win there for them. It's been a little bit of disappointment for them pretty much all season. This was a wild one. St. John Paul scores late, goes for 2, and gets it, and knocks off the AR by a point. And we'd already pretty much wrapped it up and said DAR would be that number 2 seed because we thought they'd win this football game, but unfortunately they didn't. So actually, St. John Paul will go in as number 2 and DAR 3 and Randolph number 4. Brooks rolls in that one. Good Hope upsets Fayette County 27-22. Fayette County will still take that number 1 spot, but that was a big, big win for Good Hope. Hanley had to take care of business if they wanted to get that number 2 spot, and they knock them off 35-21. Congrats to Coach Strain and company as they, at one point, looking like a 4 seed, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, they might be a 3 seed, and then things just kind of worked their way around. They just kept winning towards the middle part of this season, then here towards the last, and all of a sudden, at the end of the dust clearing, they're number 2. So congrats to the Hanley Tigers on that one. As I talked about, the game of the week, if you will, Hokes Bluff early on, they really controlled this game. Jacksonville looked tight, really didn't play that very well in the first half, but they were able to just kind of persevere and keep chipping away and managed to hit some passes in the second half and hit both of their 2-point conversions, and they slide out of there. Actually, Hokes Bluff had a chance at the end, a field goal to win it, and he just whiffed it, maybe partially blocked. I don't know. But nevertheless, Jacksonville gets a huge win and wraps up a region title, and it shocked a lot of folks. I told you all season, watch out for these Golden Eagles, and they pull it off. And I was told I was crazy that they would never beat Hokes Bluff, but as you can see, it happened, and you heard it here first. North Jackson rolling over Randolph wraps up that region for them. I guess the only upset is they scored less than 60, so off night for the Chiefs. Ariana, just surprisingly, a tough game against White Plains, 21-20, but they do get the win, and that wraps up number 4 for them. Yemish Ride, another shutout, big shock there. That Cobra Heights, Phil Campbell, it was big. Cobra Heights, I believe, took number 2 with that win. Westminster just rolls. Geraldine, Sylvania. Sylvania scores late. They go for 2 and a win. And to my understanding, got stuffed at the 1 yard line, and the Bulldogs survive and keep Sylvania out of the playoffs for right now. Because if Sylvania could have won it, they would have wrapped up the playoff spot. But just almost, but not quite. And this ain't horseshoes, so bad news for Putnam and Company. Um, Midfield, Pennington, number 2 on the line, and midfield says it's mine and smacks them around a little bit. He gets a good little win there, dropping Pennington to 3. Beulah Pike Road, big game there. Pike Road actually, early on in the season looked like they might win the region, and I believe that loss drops them to 3, if I'm not mistaken. Still a great season for them. You had the big battle of Luke Pruitt going back home to take on Plainview. Plainview struggling. We picked Plainview. We thought it was at home. We felt like, they've been playing a little bit better as the season goes on. I thought maybe they'd have just enough, and it looked like they would. But they make a shaky decision, go for 2 at the end, and try to win it. But unfortunately, the bad snap. McCurdy gets the ball, does what he can, almost pulls off the miracle, but they tackle him at the 1 yard line, and Pesky gets it back. They run out the clock just barely and sneak out of there with a win. The way that thing looks, that pretty much wrapped up a spot for Pesky because of their non-region wins early in the season over Woodville and somebody else there. Anyway, they end up with a whole lot more wins than Sylvania or Plainview, so that pretty much wraps it up for them. Unfortunately for Plainview, their destiny was in their lap. All they had to do is get the win. They wrapped up number 3, but just did not happen for Ledbetter and Company. Moving on, Houston Academy has had a fantastic season. They've won 8 games this year after going 0-10 last year. Coach Jamie Riggs comes in, the legend, and just, I don't know, flips a switch, I guess you could say, and gets them going. Unfortunately, they've taken on the chin, though. They had a chance to pretty much wrap up that region, but it just wasn't happening as Provident Christian gets the win in that one. Randolph just taking care of business. No real shock there. Flomaton actually knocks off T.R. Miller. T.R. Miller looking so good at the mid part of the season has just kind of fell apart the last 3 to 4 weeks as they just continue to slide. And I believe that drops TR to the 3rd, if not 4th spot. So, interesting story for Coach Estridge and Company this year. Holly Pond wraps up that 4th spot as they knock off Vinemont. Piedmont taking care of business. Weaver gets their win. Coach Willingham out. Collinsville, I guess, fans together, what have you, takes out Cedar Bluff 31-0. Very impressive win for Collinsville on that one, especially on the defensive side. Cottage Hill, you can make the argument biggest test they've had all season against a good Southern Choctaw team. Takes care of business 26-12. And pretty much wraps up the region for them as well. Abbeville, nobody talks about them, but I'm telling you, you look at the record, you look at the resume, this is a good little team. And they smashed GW Long in that one, and that wraps up the region for them. Addison taking care of business. Big game for Highland Home and Goshen. Goshen's a pretty good little team, so don't scoff at that. That's a big, nice little win for Highland Home, and that pretty much wraps the region up for them. Luverne was definitely rooting for Goshen, though, I'm sure. Fife rolls over Outmanned Ider. Not a shock there. Luverne taking care of business. Ohatchee, same way. This was a big matchup. Looking forward to both teams, just seeing what everybody's got going into the playoffs. This was 19-0. Reeltown scored, I believe, in the third quarter, maybe, and really settled down in the second half, played pretty well, but unfortunately just could not generate enough offense. And Rammer gets a nice win there. So, Reeltown, are they for real? It's hard to say at this point, as they have had some games where I guess you could definitely call them measuring stick games, and they just did not get it done. Sandrock, I told you it's going to be a while before they win another football game. They finally do win this one. I believe this is win number 3 for them, but it's against an outman Asbury, so take what you want out of that. Celigent, kind of, I guess, a semi upset. Everybody kind of counted them out. They get the win over Cold Springs. It actually puts them in the playoffs. I believe the 4th spot for them. Um, Tarrant just taking care of business against a scrappy little Southeastern team. West End finally gets a win over Woodland. I told you last week I felt like it was going to happen, and they don't let me down. I believe this is the lowest total they've given up all season. So congrats to the defense. Congrats to the Patriots as they get the win in that one. This was the battle of I don't want to go to 5, because if the winner takes 3 and the loser has to go to 5. We picked Cleveland. They pretty much had it won, but Westbrook scores with, I believe, 8 minutes to go, makes it 14-13, didn't get the extra point, and then score again late with about 2.5 minutes to go and win it 19-14. So that's going to send Cleveland to 5. Good luck with that one. Looking on, Marion County just holding serve. They need to at this point, as they're in a 3-way mess at this point. This was a little bit of an upset to a lot of people. We actually picked Phillips, but Cherokee plays some defense first time pretty much all season. As Coach McDonald and company get a huge, huge win, and that puts them at 3 and Phillips to 4 going into the playoffs. Donahoe just taking care of business. Faultville just smoking Gillsville. Pickens taking care of business against Hubbardsville, pretty much wraps up number 2 for them. Lynette, just, very impressive win there. Elba taking care of business. Wadley takes care of Notasoga. Not a whole lot of shots. This was a little bit of a surprise. Raglan really gives Spring Garden a great game, but come up just a little bit short. Could have been a huge upset, but Raglan, I believe, um, could have somehow snuck into the 3rd spot potentially with the upset, but they will fall to that 4th spot for them. Jermaine Brown, another monster game, gets them by Milry. TCC gets a win over Victory. Coach Woods and company just smoked Valley Head in this one. Another big game for Lipscomb. The battle for 4th in that region there. You have, I believe, a region 7. Decatur Heritage gets by Woodville 42-35. I knew it would be a high-scoring game, but this Decatur bunch, pretty scrappy little group, and Woodville has kind of faded as the season's gone on, and unfortunately come up a little bit short. So they're going to be on the outside looking in, and Decatur will claim that 4th spot. Looking on, we talked about this. Aliceville, great defense. You can make the argument, have they really played a great offense? Selma's definitely got a great offense. Some had to give. Selma being bigger, nastier, I guess, maybe in size, what have you, just moving at will on Aliceville and just dominate 60-14. Not a lot to be seen. Let's look at Albertville, Sardis. That was a big game for Dale and company. That actually wraps up the 4th spot for them. But on the flip side of things, you got to go to Pinson Valley defending state champion. So good luck with that. Bo Nix will be glad to light you up. And then we have an upset. And it's not a huge upset. I told you Opalife is a good team. Don't look at their record. Actually, look at their, uh, you know, their team for the most part. They win it in overtime. To my understanding, Viger scored and went for two for the win and did not get it, as the Bulldogs get the upset, and Viger will for sure drop out of that top spot this week. Our team of the week for last week, I mean, you have several pretty decent candidates, but we're going to go for, you know, one we already talked about there would be not New Hope. West End actually gets their first win of the season. The Patriots, they played really well offensively, got a good little quarterback, what have you, but they just haven't found any defense. They've given up 60 points. I can't tell you how many times. I don't even know the stats, probably 42 a game, thereabouts. I believe this is only the second time they held anybody under 30 points all season long, but they do just enough, and then they win it 25-22 over a struggling Woodland team. But nevertheless, a win is a win, so congrats to the Patriots for being our team of the week. So we get to the correspondent part of this thing. You got Brock Bennett. He's asking, hey, Artie, going into the playoffs, who do you see in North Alabama as, I guess a hot team going in? I mean, you obviously Fife jumps out at you. They have all the experience. They have the mental factor of, hey, people know who we are. You better bring it if you're going to beat us, kind of thing. And that definitely tenses everybody up. We talked about that a few weeks ago with being North saying, so many, um, just a mental edge there, not necessarily what's on the field, just a mental edge. And it'll definitely be one of those factors, even against Ohatchee. Ohatchee, a great team, but has not had a whole lot of success in the playoffs, except for about 2 years ago when they got to the North Final, but got beat by Piedmont. So, I mean, as far as going in, that I mean, Fife obviously would be my number one in that. Fort Payne could be a dangerous team until they get to about the third round, and then they would run into Pinson Valley. I think they would run out of juice there. Um, Collinsville is a team to watch really heavily. I kind of feel like they're built to be a very, a good little playoff team. They can throw it, they can run it. Defensively, it would be my biggest issue with them going forward. Um, but Plainview, Sylvania, they're gonna even Pisgah, they're gonna get in, but they're probably not gonna be there very long. Geraldine's had a great year, but the bracket they're in likely will play Randolph County round two. That's not gonna happen for them. Um, Even North Sand, uh, you could make a case for them if they can somehow get out of that first round against Rambrin. They could definitely maybe knock off Addison in round two and keep on chugging. But those three would definitely be my top three going forward. But everybody else not so much. And I mean, I guess if you really want to grasp at straws, we could call Oaks Bluff, and I think they're pretty good, but they likely will meet up again with Jacksonville. It'll be interesting to see that mental edge if they can get over the hump. But I hope that definitely answers your question, though. So let's get on to Nikita Magnum. His questions, it's interesting. He's throwing some, I guess, possibilities going forward. In 2 years, when we reclassify, he's saying potentially, if you look at the growth pattern, Collinsville could move up to 3A, which would be interesting because, this year they have a win over Plainview. Pretty impressive at that. His question is, how would they compete? And that's hard to say. Obviously, in by then, all this talent will be gone. It's going to be interesting to see if they can keep the ball rolling, if they can keep kids that will, play at the level that this group has. Um, Traditionally, I would say no because Collinsville has these classes that come through that are really good, and then not so good the next 2 or 3 years. So I'll say this: I don't think they would be a laughing stock and take a lot of losses, but I don't think you would ever see them competing for any region titles or anything like that. But they definitely could be a playoff team, possibly competing for 3 or 4 every year. But hopefully that answers your question going forward. And let's look at the polls. Uh, Thompson gets first place vote this week. Not a whole lot of changes there. Austin stays in at number 10. Bob Jones gets a little bit of love at 12. I don't really understand that one, as shaky of a season as they've had. Looking there at 6A, Spanish Fort gets 2 first place votes. Saraland another vote. Hartsville gets a vote this week. Hartsville is quietly 9-0. I don't know if you've noticed that, but they are quietly 9-0. Another team very quiet there. First time since 1989 they've been ranked this high. Jackson Olin, region champs, also undefeated. Most shows had a great year. Number 7, just everybody's just kind of loaded in that 6A classification. Homewood, good little team there at number 10. Hueytown's had a quiet season, winning region title, but being 8-1 at 11. McAdoo at 12. Opelika, don't let the record fool you. They're at 13. Athens, a good team with Smothers at quarterback, being 14. 5A, first time since 2000, Etowah is number 1 as Viger got beat last week. Viger does drop only just a spot, though, and still do have 2 first place votes at number 2. Madison Academy actually gets a vote this week at number 4. Ramsey's a dangerous team at 5. Just want to say that. Same one with Jordan there at 7. Um, Briarwood has shown a little bit of vulnerability this year. They're at 8, but they're still dangerous. East Limestone's had a great year at 10. Jasper is definitely a team you need to watch out for going into the playoffs at number 9. Russellville at 12. Brewer there at 14. Has had a great year quietly at 7-2. Looking into 4A, you got UMS Wright still holding strong. Jacksonville gets a first place vote this week, and number 2 is the highest they've ever been ranked. So congrats to the Golden Eagles. Brooks moves up to 3. Hopes Bluff drops to 4. American Christian at 5. North Jackson gets 2 first place votes this week, though. Somebody is loving the Chiefs, and I can't wait for that potential matchup with Hopes Bluff and North Jackson in round 2. Just buckle up and get you some popcorn for that one, as we're going to find out if the Chiefs are for real as they move up to 6 this week. Headland, big win, move up to 7. Fayette County drops a little bit to 9. Good Hope gets some love this week after their upset win over Fayette County and move up to 10. Montevella quietly at 12. Got one of the best receivers in the state, if not the country, on their team. Hanley quietly moving up there at about 14 with a gritty little 5-4 record. Same way Hillcrest Evergreen, we kind of forgot them. They took some lumps this year moving up in classification, but they're still a dangerous team at 6-4. Randolph County, number 1 still. Mobile Christian gets 5 votes this week at number 1. Winfield gets 2 first place votes this week. Westminster finally gets the first place vote. It's probably the first one in school history, I'm sure, as they are number 7, highest they've ever been ranked. So just a great, great year for them, and we will find out what they got going into the playoffs. Fultondale holding strong at 6. Thomasville at 10. Geraldine at 12. Midfield at 14. Beulah at about 17. And Pike County, Pike Road at 16. Looking into 2A, not a whole lot's changed. Shohatchee still got their first place vote. Cottage Hill moves up to number 3 after their, wrapping up their region title last week. That's going to be a big, big game for them this week as well. And that's highest they've been ranked, as we've said. Same with Thorsby at 4. So a lot of first-timers going there. Luverne's still sneaking around there at 5. Highland Home, another big win. They move up to 6. Reeltown, takes the loss, but still, I don't know. Somebody likes them as they stay at 7. Collinsville moves up to 9. Ranburn sneaks back in the top 10 at number 10. Aliceville goes to 11. Addison at 12. Uh, Red Bay about 16, and then North Sand at 17. Looking into 1A, Lynette still holding strong at number 1. Linden gets 6 first place votes this week. Faultville still get that vote from whoever it is. They're holding strong to that. St. Luke's at 4. South Lamar at 5. So many good teams in 1A. I know I've said it all season, but it is what it is. Mars Hill's holding strong at 10. Wadley at 11. And Spring Garden, the scare, but they hold on to that 12th spot. Look into this week's set of games. You're going to have a lot of interclass. There's still going to be a few region games out there, but not very many. That Austin Athens should be very interesting, but I like Austin to go ahead and maybe just sneak out of there with a win. But it'll be a nice tune up for Athens going in the playoffs. I would say yes, the City's going to win 4 in a row, but that's not going to happen. Willie Miller and company, way too much for them. That momentum train will be derailed very fast and just a blowout fashion. I like Clay Chalford to win that one. And Gaston City to finish at 3 and 7. And the hot seat gets even hotter for Mr. Bart Sessions. Looking on, let's look at Pleasant Valley Ohatchee. In the past, I would say this is going to be a blowout. These two teams know each other. They used to play each other in that region over the last really 4 years, I guess. Pleasant Valley is very improved. It would not surprise me at all to see this game close, but I like Ohatchee. It's at home. They're going to probably find a way to sneak out of there with a win. They definitely don't want to lose one going into the playoffs. Looking at Priceville, Brewer should get the win in that one, and Brewer will quietly be 8-2. I don't think anybody saw that coming into this season. South Lamar Seligent, usually a very good game, but South Lamar should roll in that one. Sparkman going into Decatur, be a good little game, but I would probably edge just a little bit towards Sparkman in that one. Thompson going on the road to Crestview, Florida, be an interesting game there. See if Thompson can continue their momentum and Talia can just go ball out somewhere else. Valley Head going into Collinsville, that game is probably going to get ugly. Caleb Jones is just such an athlete, and Jared Barkley run the ball really well last week. So as they just continue to be so balanced, Valley Head's going to be in for a very long night, and be their 9th straight loss and drop to 1-9. As where Collinsville is just going to be, at 9-1, very, just kind of on a mission, I guess you could say, having that only loss to 5. Looking in the 7A, that McGill, Fairhope, I would definitely go McGill in that one. Theodore should get that one. Fort Payne going into Carver Birmingham. Carver Birmingham is a solid team. I would probably edge just a little bit toward Fort Payne to get the win, though, in that one. Daphne and Blunt, definitely go Blunt on that one. Pell City, Chelsea. Chelsea's probably not going to get that 3rd one in a row. Pell City's probably just a little too strong for them. Pinson Valley Lee, going to be a long night for Lee. Lee's defense has really struggled all season, and Bo Nix is definitely not what you want to see coming in if you cannot stop anybody. Spanish Fort, Saraland, that's one of them. You get you a ticket, you get there early, and you get ready to watch a good football game because both of these teams are going to. I would imagine this is going to be a very low scoring game. Both defenses play pretty well. But I would probably edge just a little bit towards Saraland, being the fact that Toros don't have their starting quarterback. And I believe that is a de facto region title game as well. At Lincoln Montevallo will be an interesting game, but I would probably edge just a little bit toward Montevallo to get the win. Maybe a little too high powered for Lincoln. Piedmont going into Geraldine. That game actually has some significance. Looking at the schedule, it wouldn't look like it would mean much, but Piedmont definitely has got to get this win because if they win, they wrap up the number one seed. If they lose, they open the door to let Randolph potentially uh, take that first seed. But I just, Geraldine's had a great year, but it's going to be, I think they're going to be a little outmanned. Steve Smith and company, um, Hayes at quarterback, he might be an eighth grader, but he has the body of I don't even know, junior or something. He is a beast at that quarterback position, and I think they're going to be a little too much for Coach Waldrop and company. Asbury Southeastern this game, I'm sure Asbury thought, well, we're going to schedule a team that we might get beat. But Southeastern's very improved, and look for them to roll over Asbury in that one. Cedar Bluff going into Gaston. This game had a little bit of significance if you're a Ram fan, but don't get too excited because Cedar Bluff should roll. I would think they should roll. Gaston is showing a little bit of improvement. It might stay close for a little bit, but I like Bluff to pull away in that one. Sandrock going into Westbrook, gonna be a long night for the Rock as they should drop 3-7. Looking in, let's look at Phillipsburg going into Hubbardsville. Hubbardsville has got to wrap up that third seed if they're going to do it, and it's going to have to knock off Phillips. Phillips is a great team. Should be a great game. I would probably lean just a little bit towards um, maybe Phillips can get this win, and it could cause some serious havoc. But I don't know. It's pretty much too close to call on that one. Looking on, let's look at ASD going into Gillsville. Look for Gillsville to get another win after I don't know how many losses. It's been 3 or 4 in a row after showing a little bit of improvement toward the middle part of this season. But look for them to get another win and close out their season on a good note. Friendly going into DAR. Going to be a long night for Friendly. DAR is way too explosive for them. And they definitely will be looking to take out some frustration after that disappointing loss last week. Brooks going into Masson Academy. It's going to be a great game. Two good teams, both region champions. I would probably lean just a little bit toward Brooks. It's going to be close, but I think they'll pull that one out. Looking on Central Clay going in Hanley, be two good physical teams, two old school coaches, just a great matchup. But I would probably lean just a little bit towards the Volunteers in that one. Cleveland going into Susan Moore. Susan Moore just quietly has had a great season. They're not very impressive, but they just find ways to get wins. And I think they'll do it again against Cleveland in that one. Also, very close in proximity, so I guess it's a rivalry game, if you will. Who's Christian going to New Hope? New Hope, has had some pretty decent games. Almost beat Plainview 2 weeks ago. This past week blew out Greenland Mountain, so there's confidence there. And then on the other side of things, Coosa has, kind of rebounded after that beatdown from Faultville, getting 3 blowout wins the last 3 weeks for them. It's going to be a great battle. The only thing I would worry about as far as Coosa goes is the fact that New Hope has some bigger kids, maybe a little bit quicker athletes. gonna be a great game. But I would probably lean just a little bit towards, you know, New Hope to get the win potentially, but it would not shock me at all to see Coosa go over there and show out and potentially sneak out of there with a win. Crossville going into Plainview. Plainview definitely has got to get this win. Um, but for the most part, they can't really control their own destiny because the way the tiebreak works, it goes by wins. Crossville only got one win, so it doesn't really help them a whole lot to get this one. But Crossville is hungry. They're looking to finish out 2-8. But Plainview kind of let that one get away last week. Look for them to rebound and do just enough to get by Crossville in this one, going in the playoffs potentially. East Limestone should roll over Tanner. I don't think they leave me close. As CJ Yarborough, I guess, goes back home for his homecoming, and look for him to show out and dominate his old team in that one. Elba going into Tate, Florida. I don't know a whole lot about Tate, Florida, but look for Elba to give it a go. But I'd probably lean toward that Florida team in that one. Faulkville going to the Elkmont. Gonna be a long night for Elkmont. Faulkville way too strong for them, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Elkmont struggled defensively, and Faulkville really has not even. I don't even know, barely struggled offensively for them. So look for them to win big. This is, I guess, the game of the week for some because if Sylvania wins, they're in, and they take the third spot and drop, excuse me, drop Pisgah to the fourth spot. But if they lose, which is more than likely going to happen, I just can't see them beat five. Five's going to probably win this ball game. If that happens, then Pisgah goes in at 3 and Plainview sneaks in at 4. So that's probably going to be the scenario. So, basically the ball is in Sylvania's court. They have got to win this ball game if they want to go to the playoffs. Gardendale, Mountain Brook. Mountain Brook should finally get back on track and get the win in that one. Bordeaux, Pickens County, great matchup. Both playoff teams. Pickens County looking to make a run and get back to a championship game for them. I'll probably lean just a little bit toward Gordo though in this one. Maybe just a little outmanned. Looking on, let's look at Edmond and Abbeville. This is going to be an interesting game. We talked about Abbeville was very, I guess, underrated, and Headland's had a great season. Be interesting to see. I think Headland's going to win this ball game, but it'll be interesting to see how close Abbeville can keep it. That'll be a big, I guess, barometer going into the playoffs as to how dangerous is this team to come out of the South and do that. Close enough going into Sardis. It's going to be a long night for Sardis. They have really struggled defensively, and Darian Meads and company are going to look to bounce back, look for them to have a big night and get them a win and take some momentum going in the playoffs. Holly Pond taking on Fairview. I would probably lean toward the Broncos to get the win as they get ready for their playoff matchup, definitely going to Geraldine. IMG going into Hoover. Hoover's playing pretty well, but IMG is just a whole lot of talent and just in a big ball, and probably just a little too much for the Bucks in that one. Hugh Briarwood, great matchup. Hugh has quietly had a great season. Briarwood, going in as the number 2 seed, maybe a little bit of a disappointment for them. Look for them to sneak out of there with a win, but it would not surprise me at all to see Hugh surprise us once again and get the win in that one. James Clemens, Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa, look for the Jets to get another win in that one. County should roll over Lauderdale County in that one. Morris Hill, a dominant win over Lexington, I'm sure. North Jackson going to Arab. Arab's definitely improved. It'll be interesting to see if North Jackson can deal with maybe a little more size and maybe a little more depth of Arab. But I do like the Chiefs to roll in that one. Even though Arab has definitely shown some signs of improvement, Mr. Witherspoon is probably going to have a monster game, and the Chiefs are going to finish up this perfect season going into the playoffs. Oneonta going into Piedmont, or excuse me, JB Pennington. Uh, Oneonta kind of cooled off the last 2 weeks, but Pennington, I don't think they got the athletes to hang with the Redskins. I like the Redskins to get that win in a close one. Pisgah going into North Sand. Pisgah a lot on the line. If they get the win, definitely would wrap up that third seed, I would imagine. But I don't see them beating North Sand. Definitely, um, you know, just way too much green to hill. I can't see Pisgah stopping them. Too much speed. I like North Sand in this one. Looking on Scottsboro Hartsville. Scottsboro definitely coming off, a disappointment last week. They're definitely out of the playoffs. Just kind of the lamb to slaughter, I guess you could say. I mean, I know they're Wildcats, but they're definitely going to be the lambs this week going into Hartsville. Hartsville's going to be way too much fun, way too much talent. This game will probably get ugly fast, and I like Hartsville big in that one. Section Woodville, as we talked about, Woodville's kind of faded. Section is, got off to a great start, kind of stumbled through the middle part of the season, but they finally picked it back up over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Look for them to get a win and finish out strong for Coach Powell. Sheffield, Cherokee, I would probably lean just a little bit towards Sheffield in that one. Southside going in Cherokee County. Southside definitely. Southwell running the ball really well over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Definitely getting their offense going. Look for them to get the win and probably in a blowout fashion. Spring Garden going into Ider. Going to be a long night for Ider. Spring Garden, way too much physicality. Look for this game to be maybe a little closer than what you would think, but I like Garden to win it and continue their momentum going in the playoffs. As Ider's just looking to finish on a good note. St. John Paul going into Douglas. Going to be a long night for the Eagles in that one. This is a great matchup. St. Luke's going into Cottage Hill Christian. You got Jermaine Brown leading St. Luke's going into Samario Rudolph and Cottage Hill. Going to be a great matchup. A lot of offense, a lot of athleticism. I would probably lean just a little bit toward Cottage Hill. I think their defense is a little more stout than St. Luke's. Look for them to slow down Jermaine Brown just a little bit and get a big win going in the playoffs for them. Looking on at Tarrant Fultondale is going to be an interesting matchup. Tarrant is a team that is, I guess you can make an argument, playing in a very soft region, but have taken advantage of it, and they're going to go into Fultondale looking to prove something. But look for Fulton. That'll be too much. Jason Jones and company, just a lot of speed. Going to be a little too much for Karen, I do believe. Viger going to Williamson. Look for Viger to bounce back in that one. W.S. Neal, T.R. Miller could be just what T.R. Miller needs to get back on track. Look for them to get the win in that one. Wadley going into Randolph County. Wadley has had a quiet, good season for them. And Randolph County's kind of hit their stride over the last 3 to 4 weeks after kind of stumbling out of the blocks as the number one coming into this season. Look for this thing to be close for maybe a half, and then Randolph probably takes over in the second half and gets the win in that one. West End going into Glencoe. It'll be an interesting game. Glencoe has really struggled all season, and West End coming off their first win, looking for back-to-back wins and finish up at 2-8. Would not surprise me at all if that did happen, because Glencoe has really struggled defensively, and as we've said, the Patriots are pretty good on the offensive side of the ball, throwing it. So look for West End to pull a semi-upset and just continue the misery for the Yellow Jackets for this 2018 season. White Plains going to Ramburn. Be a nice test for Ramburn. Ramburn has played really well last week. White Plains quietly has improved pretty much every week. They've played some really tight games the last 3 weeks. They're not wins, but they're playing people tough. That's a definite sign of improvement. So this game could really be close, but I think Ramburn will probably pull it out in the end. Wilson's a good team, but going into Red Bay, I'll probably lean just a little bit towards Wilson. I think they'll rain on Red Bay's parade on this one. As we talked about, Red Bay is in that 3-way tie for first, and look for them to take number 2, Addison at 1, and Colbert County at 3. Winston County going to Lynn. Lynn's got to get this win if they want a playoff spot. But Winston County's pretty good. And I think Winston County is going to win it. And that's pretty much going to put Lynn out in the cold. As Hubbard will take 3 and Marion County at 4. And Lynn, as we said, being out at 5. Woodland going into Donahoe. Woodland is, like I said, really struggled all season. This game could be close for a while, but I think Donahoe's got a little too much athleticism for them. Look for them to sneak out there with a win. That pretty much wraps us up. As I said, this is the final week. Enjoy it. It's going to be the end for a lot, and the beginning for others as far as the hopes eternal going into the playoffs. I'm Artie Decker. This is PSN. Join us back next week as we will jump right into the playoff picture, as it will definitely be set next week when we speak to you. Saying goodbye and go out and just enjoy some of these games. We'll see you next week. Save us a spot on the fence, and God bless.